Hi everyone, today I'm gonna talk about old series Canon vintage lenses. So idea about these lenses, I will apply them in the newest mirrorless camera system. So to do this we have to use bridge adapter. Basically this is what we need to have, an adapter. You can find them many online. So, and today I'm talking about especially Canon series. I collect every 50 millimeters in this Canon series lenses. Then I try to make them a comparison between F2, Canon 50 millimeter, F2, F1.8, 1.4 and 1.2. This is not L series 1.2. There is also L series later generation with the FT mount, but I haven't found this one. And a plus on it, I have 50 millimeter macro lens F3.5. So this is also very interesting lenses. And basically, to use this, you have to apply an adapter. When you apply adapter, you need to lock your adapter system. When you lock your, there should be the, especially for the Canon series, if you don't lock it, when you change the aperture, it didn't work. When you lock it, when you change the aperture, you see open and close your aperture. So basically, the bridge, when you have the bridge adapter, you apply on your Canon lens to Sony camera. All the images we taken with Sony a7 IV. But I use this bridge adapter, and I use every one of these lenses to compare how they look like by minimum focus distance and sharpness, the color rendering, contrast, and all the details. So there will be two shots of the second section of this video on the computer. I'm just comparing every single lenses and making the details. So I'm just gonna talk small of each lenses right now. This is, it's really surprised me, and Canon 50 millimeter f2. This is very late generation of the Canon because they want to have low cost series, and if we compare with the others, so this is one of the nice lenses. I really surprised. So, and we have 50 millimeter 1.8. This is I think one of the best seller for FT series, and you can easily find it everywhere. So, but you need to make sure your copy should be working fine, and please don't buy before check it or before make sure it's working. So, and it is also very let me say lightweight if we compare the others. So, and here I have 50 millimeter 1.4. This is so far my favorite lens, because there are two main features. I really like color rendering and the price, and you can go really close to subject, and also it gives very nice contrast. So this is so far my favorite lens, and I recently buy this lens. I haven't used much in the field, and I didn't take many different photos on the street. So I just use here on the test, and I take a couple of film pictures with this lens. So I don't have large experience to use it in the field. But when I do tests, I also like the quality of this lens, but it's really a bit pricey. 50 millimeters 1.2 and FT series. So this is also one of the, it's very nice film camera if you up to filming film cameras. Canon IA1 program 1. This program version is latest generation of IA1, and also it's very nice. And I also use this 35-70 millimeter lens in 50 millimeter area, and I try to also compare with this lens on this series. So long story short, and I try to show you how they are working with the newer generation camera system. And one of as I said, one of my favorite is 1.4 millimeter. So this 1.4 millimeter, I made quite long project with this camera. So this is Sony a7 II, and I use this camera since 2016. I have many projects on the street, and one of my project I take with this lens, only this lens with manual focusing and hair color of the street. And if you write hashtag in the Instagram, you will see this photo project, hair color of the street. Let me say 80% of this images taken with these lenses. So idea of these lenses, and the very good things, I just put the C2 is manual focus, and when I put twice, I make 10 times magnifier. I just focus the, let me say, model eye or portrait, whoever I'm taking the portrait, I'm making the focus in the eye. Then I make it magnifier 1, and I take the images. That's how I use. And in the daily life, a little bit slower than autofocus for sure. You cannot take images on the something in the sporty and whatever, but it's really let me say convenient. So it's fun to use it manual lens in automatic camera. It's just give you old days appearance. So it's really a good study or project I made with these lenses, and I'm gonna put the link below. Long story short, I try to make all these pictures taken in this table. I use 2 softbox Godox continuous light, and I try to make every picture similar and to compare one to another. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you get the information what you after about this old lenses. I will continue about making different studies with this series, and then if you have any other question or request, please feel free to write it comment below. And this video, it takes quite long time just because I'm giving review one to another in the Lightroom, and I hope you have enough patience to watch all of it. After the overview of the lenses and basic explanation, I would like to continue on the computer. I just want to show you what lenses and how the characteristic they are. So first of all, I made them different colors, so each color has different f setting for each lens, like 50mm 1.8, 50mm 1.4, 50mm f2, 50mm 1.2, and 35mm and 70 it's set at 50mm and f4. We have also 50mm macro f8. So I haven't used all of these aperture settings. I try to make them basic. Minimum aperture f2, f4, 5.6 and f8 for each lenses. So I color them everything first. I'm gonna start main for lenses such as f1.2, 1.8, 1.4 and 1.2. So basically I just try to show one side to another, and somehow my copy is 50mm f2. It is very nice and unique copy because it's well kept and they have really nice contrast. And 1.8 doesn't have that contrast, and the color rendering is not the similar. So if I zoom the detail, and I can see the object detail and similar, but then this image doesn't have this contrast. And same thing in the hand, we see all the details. Same thing here. So this is minimum, so maximum opening in this lens, and this is one stop down from the maximum opening of this lens. Even it's better. We're supposed to have this 1.8 should be better for f2, but it's not the case. So if I swap between 1.2 and f2 here, so sorry, 1.4 and f2, then we can see 1.4, it is very similar characteristic, and yeah, some of detail is better here, some of detail better here, and we have also some of the detail in the face. So that's very similar, and the color rendering is for me is 1.4, it's looked a little bit better, and I just every settings was still similar, and I set in the table with the LED continuous lighting. I haven't changed any lighting setting while I'm taking these pictures. So I'm gonna replace now between 1.2 and 1.4. So if we go, the background is very similar, and the colors are, for me, is 1.4 looks better, but it's not bad with 1.2 as well. This doesn't have any color grading at all. And if we go background, it is pretty similar. I haven't seen significant change. And even if I go here front, looks really similar, and as a characteristic because they are same f value, but the lens opening is bigger in 1.2 than 1.4. So if we go details, as you see, 1.2 has better focus here, and in the hand this one is better. But if we look the head of the character and the color replacing, they're similar, and this is a paint failure. It doesn't look like, it looked like a lens appearance failure, but it is paint just jump onto another. If we look to detail here, it is really similar, and so even 1.2 is sharper than 1.4 in F2. So if we continue with, I'm not gonna go all of the details. We have here F4, so 50mm F4. As you see here, F4 we have improvement with 50mm 1.8. As I said earlier, 1.8 has contrast loss and some kind of smoky or appearance. If I replace with 1.4 F4 versus F2, let me see, they're pretty similar, but we have more detail in the eye, more detail here, here, and here. So 1.4, it's winner against F2. So that's why I'm gonna change F2 versus F1.2. So if we go closer here, and the details are similar, lines looks nice, better, and we have all the detail here, here. If we go down, everything looks identical, but I see more detail in this version. What is it? 1.2. So in F4 we have more detail in 1.2. So then I'm gonna compare 1.4 versus macro. So this is supposed to be sharp, where we should wait sharper image in the macro lens. So if we see, yeah, clearly we can read every details in the head, in the hand, and yeah, I think we have slightly focusing issue here, because this area is much sharper than this area, and I try to focus every images on the head, but somehow this is a little bit back focus than this one, so I cannot judge two of those. The color, about the color, and yeah, this is more visible and this is more blurry in F4, and also the color wise macro looks better to me, but I'm gonna continue with just basic comparison. And this is one of the surprise here, and it's a bonus. You see, we have really good characteristic on the 35 to 70 in F4, but this is just first shot. There isn't any first aperture rate. So I'm just gonna continue very basic. I will swap 5.6 and I swap directly in F8. So we should wait much sharper on each of it. So I'll start with F2 and versus 1.8. And we don't have a contrast here, but the focus is really good. And we see the details, but the contrast loss. And I think still F2 is surprised me, and I really like to have an F2. I'm gonna swap with 1.4. So 1.4 versus F2, they're pretty similar. I see every single detail here, and yeah, everything similar here, and yeah, they're really similar. And I think I like 1.4 in F8, and color looks better. So then I'm gonna swap with F1.2 in F8. Let's see. Yeah, F1.2 is really good. Detail is good. Yeah, it looks really nice. And in the back, they're pretty similar. Still, there is, yeah. And we read more details in behind. And sorry for dust, I forget to delete them. Yeah, I think in this image, I guess 1.2 still winner. I will change 1.4 versus macro. Yeah, macro, it is really good color. And if I go detail, and we have every detail here, face. But as I said, this is a little bit front focus than this one. And I try to use 10 times magnifier to make everything correct, but these are manual lenses. So I cannot judge in this level, but they looks really similar, and I really like the color of macro lens. So I'm just swap macro with 35-70, and this is just bonus lens. Yeah, it's correct their focus and the color better in F8 after F4, but still it's not a prime level, but it's still usable lens and still usable quality with every detail. So if I use bokeh and the wide angle, I just want to show. So this is 1.8. I'm gonna swap 1.8 in 1.8. 1.4 if we use in 1.8, same of it. So there is not much focus here, but looks really tough to define which one is winner. And because it's shadow to focus and center is really narrow, but because of the contrast loss, I still pick 1.4, and this is one of my favorite lenses. So I'm just replace with 1.2 versus 1.4. This is 1.2, and I'm gonna use 1.4 in 1.4 exactly. So this is maximum opening, and this is maximum opening in both lenses. So, and if I look closely in maximum opening, you can see some of the points are focused. But from here to here, you see that really small focusing point, and it's really hard to make this lenses manual focus while you're holding them. And there is, so let me see, what is this, 1.4 and 1.2. It's both of them. I'm gonna use 1.4 versus 1.4. The same, and yeah, 1.2 looks better a little bit in here. So finally, I'm just gonna show minimum focus distance of each lenses. So in this study, I'm just go to as close as possible to object to focus in the face. So I'm just trying to show each lenses here. So if we see 50mm f2 and versus f1.4, they are look very similar, but if we look f2 look a little bit closer than f1.8. So if we compare f1.8 versus f1.2, you go more close to object. Then I will try to show f1.8 instead. I will show f1.4, and if you see here, you go really close with f1.4, and in this image taking 1.4 aperture, and you see the background is already gone, and this image is taking f5.6. there is huge difference, and there is also 5.6 image here. Both of them is taken 5.6, and this is f1.4 and this is f1.2. And if I change this image to 35 to 70mm, in 50mm you can also go close, similar like f1.2, and here is closest in the 50 series, it's f1.4. Then I'm gonna show the clear winner in this section as expected. And macro lens 50mm 3.5 macro series FD, it's really good, and when you go close focus you see every detail in the eye, and you can go almost portrait of really small object. So as expected, macro is you can go really close, but if you ignore the macro, and I think 1.4 is in the winner here to go as close as possible, then you see 1.2. So all the others are similar, and 3.5 macro is totally different lens, not in this series, in this field. So its main character to go close, and it does the job really well. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will continue to a couple of difference, but later sometime. And thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Have a good day. All the best.